Hello my lovelies. As I'm recording this, it is the 1st of November and I've just finished my October art challenge. Now for the previous 5 years I've been doing Inktober, but this year I decided to do my friends' art prompts, which they called CATTOBER, and I wrote them down in my planning sketchbook. So before I show off the final pieces, I'm actually going to show off the planning sketchbook. Because I knew this was going to be full of rough sketches, I did like a really nice final piece for the front, and you can actually see me painting this sketchbook cover in the video in the top right hand corner. So let's get on to the sketchbook tour. So before I even decided to do CATTOBER, I actually was thinking, should I do Inktober this year? And I've actually planned the first 2 days of Inktober before I kind of realised that I'm not really into doing it this year. Also, my friends had released a prompt list, which I was really excited about. So the ones I had planned was day 1 and day 2, which was fish and wisp. So the first theme of CATTOBER was deep. Now trying to come up with the colour scheme for it as well was a part of this page. Now I didn't do this every single day because this year I actually decided to draw directly on the final sketchbook, whereas last year I had a very roundabout way of going about my sketchbook. Basically last year I would use my light box and there'd be no sketchy lines underneath, but this year I just decided cut out the middleman, go straight ahead with it. So much less stressful and took up so much less of my day, which I was relieved for. So I had various different ideas for deep. Obviously there is a picture of Elias. This actually comes into play a little bit later and you'll see when I get to the final pieces. I thought about many different things with deep. I thought about Akrel. So Akrel was the main kingdom that I thought of for deep. So day 2 was whimsical. This one really could have been anything, but I kind of wanted a really cute vibe for this, and the final piece actually looks like the sketch in this one, so I didn't really change too much. Obviously I redrew it for my sketchbook. So day 3 was sword. I chose this composition. Then we have Loki and river. This theme was haunted. Then I went for seasonal drink. This one didn't necessarily contain the caption inside because it was one of those very literal prompts. I really wish I would have gone with this composition, but all my pieces had to be vertical this year and this is more of a horizontal setting, so maybe for Christmas I might actually do a composition like this. I thought it was really cute. Then we have folklore. I actually went for Akrel again. This is little Pearl and her mother. I kind of decided to make up the composition afterwards, so I drew many different things on top of each other. I ended up using this for day 12, so I actually wrote a little 12 and then circled it. Some days I just went back to previous ideas that I'd had. The next theme was elegant. I could have gone with Vanessa, and then I was like, no, wait, Typhy, because Typhy in her artro wear, I really wanted to draw it. Day 8 was Fang. Now this one wasn't really too planned. I think I had 3 compositions. I knew I wanted my vampire princess. I haven't really introduced her either, which is really interesting. So it's kind of like a spoiler into one of my kingdoms that I have not even touched upon on my channel before. But yes, I do have a vampire kingdom called Huxley, and this is Princess Myra. Then day 10. Day 9 was visceral, and of course it had to be tragic. Not much planning here either. I kind of went with the first thing that came to mind, which actually just made it quicker and easier to do this year. Definitely less stressful than I've done in previous years. Creation. I thought that this was too cute not to do, even though this was more of a horizontal kind of layout. I was like, no, I have to do this. This is so cute. Also, it was the first thing I went with, so there's that. Grimace, you know that it has to be Hawk for this prompt. It couldn't be anybody else. But what's interesting about the planning stage, when I was trying to decide which character it should be, is I either decided it would be Hawk or Yulia, and ironically, they are opposite sides of the spectrum. So you have Yulia, the Queen of Mariposa, and Hawk, the Emperor of Avis, the Bird Kingdom. So these two kingdoms are actually very much against each other, which I find quite ironic. Also, if I had gone with Yulia, it would have linked back to, I think, Frail from last year, I believe. Or was that 2018? To be honest, I can't remember where the days are going. The UK's going into another lockdown later on this coming week, and my mental health is already through the floor currently. Why not add another month to it? Yeah, that's great. More compositions for Grimace. I actually tried to go for this composition, but it just was not working for me. So I actually came up with a composition that you'll see in the final piece. Then we have Ghost. It had to be either Daphne or Skylar. To be honest, I think with the final pieces, this one is probably my weakest one. I don't know what it is. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, or as impactful as I wanted it to. It just feels like something I would have done in previous years, if that makes sense. Not that it's bad, but you'll see in the final piece how it kind of does not link very well with many that I did this year. It's just one of those ones that sticks out in my mind as not as good, if that makes sense. So halfway through the sketchbook, we got to day 14 and we got to Prophecy. And Prophecy is of little toddler Loki. I went with this sort of composition down here. Originally I was going to go for an even younger Loki, and I actually referenced my friend Bryony's baby. She recently had a baby, and oh my god, this picture of her baby was so cute. I had to reference it. Just, oh, look at that. Also, this prompt, what it has to do with baby Loki is basically her name has always been this kind of prophecy. So I don't know whether you can read that right now. The world lies in a time lock, and if you know her story, then the prophecy should actually kind of make sense a bit. So day 15 is Comfort. I really like this composition. Oh, it's so sweet. To be honest, I wish I would have gone with this one, but I felt like this composition was way too similar to other compositions I've done in the past, so I kind of changed up a bit and I went with this one. Even though it was a more horizontal one, I kind of wanted more variety, if that makes sense. So we have Sajini and Jacob. Then we have Callan. I wanted to do something with Callan and Resting, to be honest. Resting could have been any of the characters, to be fair, but I thought this actually suit Callan pretty well. And any excuse to do sunsets in the background, any excuse. So then we have Book. Now this is when I was going to not combine any of the prompts together, but I actually ended up combining day 17 and 18 together. So day 17 was Book and day 18 was Timid. And I knew already that I was going to have Nicholas, so this is kind of a reference to my comic Interconnected. And I also liked the idea of him hiding letters that he would get from Vanessa in books, because I really see that as something he would do. I find that adorable. And then I thought, wait, I've only got 30 pages in this final sketchbook, so one of them is either going to have to be cut or I'm going to have to add another page to this sketchbook, which I've done for the last 5 years, but I didn't want to do that, and also I wanted a break. Mentally, I was just not feeling great and I needed time to recover, and also my mentor and my counsellor that weekend basically just told me to switch off, so this was like the perfect storm of things to happen, and it just felt right to combine these prompts. I've never actually combined prompts for this before. Day 19 was Candlelit, and of course it had to be Taifi and Hisoki on the balcony. Just, oh my god, it's so cute. Day 20, Nightmare. We have Sparrow. Poor little Sparrow's having a nightmare and his mother's not there to comfort him. Oh, I feel so bad for him. Day 21 was Town. I didn't really have a composition for this one. To be honest, this one was very last minute and one that I kind of came up with on the fly, so I didn't really have much in the way of planning, The only real planning that I had was this sort of thing where they're looking at each other and also what characters I wanted them to be, so Loki and Elijah. Day 22, Noble. This look of perspective. I know I wanted one of the characters to be knighted, but I couldn't decide which one it was. And since I'd already drawn Nicholas quite a lot, or referred to Nicholas quite a lot already, I thought, well, why not Callan? Because Callan doesn't really fit in too many of these prompts this year. Then we have Struggle. This one really could have been any character, to be fair, because a lot of the characters have struggles. But this one is of my character Kanara, her struggle with getting used to a new kingdom. Day 24, Parchment. And of course, it had to be Nicholas. Again, since I didn't do Nicholas on a previous page, I just decided to do him here. This is also a link to Interconnected as well. So this one actually links directly with day 17 and day 18. So it's kind of like a continuation where he actually reads the letters that he hides in his books, which I find really sweet. Day 25 was Chains, and of course, it had to be like an anchor kind of thing. So I really wanted a sense of depth and scale. So in terms of composition, it kind of has that same feeling as day 1, and you'll see in the final pieces what I mean by that. Day 26 is Beast. I decided on Elias because, oh my god, he's terrifying. I really wanted a scary piece, like one to actually scare people's socks off with this one. This would also challenge me in my perspective. So around this time I was planning pretty much these at the same time. So I kind of just sketched which ones came to mind first. And of course, day 30, Masquerade. This one came pretty quickly because it was either going to be Hisoki and Taifi or Lucille and Brandon, because I did a Sims story post with Brandon and Lucille at the Masquerade Ball and I fell in love with them. I love them so much. Song, of course, so day 27 had to be Ruby, and these were some of the compositions just around here, just trying to come up with something. So day 28 was Contract. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Contract was actually a pretty difficult one because I had no idea what to go with. And then I kind of came to the idea, wait, why don't I look back through my old sketchbooks, so my old planning sketchbooks, see what kind of fits, what doesn't, and also look back through the old final pieces as well. So day 5 build of, I think it was last year, was actually a view of Taifi and her mum, Emlyn, signing away her life to be married to an Artro prince. So I kind of thought of that as like a marriage contract. I am going to show you the links between the final pieces and whichever one they're linked to. Clock is also one of those ones that I came up with after looking through the old sketchbooks, and I kind of realised I hadn't done anything with Thomas Callisto. Thomas Callisto is Nicholas's dad, and Nicholas's dad had this pocket watch, which is a plot point in my comic. So I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to draw Thomas. I love Thomas. He's so sweet. Oh, I love him. So last but not least, we have the planning for Fall Festival. I didn't really know what kingdom I wanted to do or what character I wanted to do for this one. So instead of a character, I just decided, you know what, this is the last day of October. Why not have it not be a character, but in reference to the kingdom instead? So I had it linked to Henlon, and Henlon, I feel like because it's very rooted in its nature and the changing of the seasons, I thought that a full festival for Henlon would be perfect. Once I drew this little composition, I just fell in love with it. I preferred this one over this one. I did this one second and I just thought, well, this one looks a bit generic. This one has a bit of interest and it makes your eye follow the light a bit. I was also inspired by crunching leaves underneath your feet. So I had recently walked back to the car from my Slimming World group meeting, and it was pretty dark at night and the moon was just peeking out of the clouds. It was like this really, really magical scene, and there was just orange leaves just along the path, and it was just, oh my god. It was a moment that I had, like, of inspiration that just washes over me. All these colours are the Montmartre watercolours. I picked these up from HomeSense. They are designed in Australia, but made in China. But these swatches down here are the mix of the phthalo blue and the indigo from the Roller and Klinger inks. With the sketchbook, there was only 2 pages left by the time I'd finished planning, so I planned this pretty well. It was just the right size sketchbook for the planning stage. So now we get on to the final pieces, and I am actually going to read out the caption alongside each of the ones in this book, so it kind of explains the story a little bit behind it. So day 1 is deep. She swam deep into the cave, not knowing she was not alone. We have my character Lorelei, and there's Elias, so a little hint of Elias, and there is some gold in this. I really like the gold in this sketchbook, it just really, really pops. Day 2 is whimsical. The king had quite the whimsical expression watching her dance. Since this takes place in Loka, I did actually reference my comic for some of the backgrounds, so yeah. Day 3 is sword. This was actually inspired by one of my Sims posts that I did around this time. The characters in this one are Prince Spiro of Cinderash, and this is Eliana. She appeared in some of last year's prompts as well. The word for this one is sword, and the caption is, "His touch bent and melted her prized sword." Day 4 is haunted. And I wanted this one to be a little bit more happier than some of the other pieces I saw on Instagram. I know people were going the sad route, but I kind of wanted to go like a sad route, but also kind of make it really bittersweet at the same time. Again, with the gold. And it's very subtle, but you can see R and J in there. And those are Loki's parents' initials, so River and Jonathan. So haunted. She was haunted by the reflection of her mother staring back at her in the mirror. It was as if River was there, wishing her luck. I imagine this being on Loki's wedding day, and just, the fact that River isn't there, but she's there in spirit. It's so sweet, but it's so sad. Day 5 is seasonal drink. This one really isn't in the caption. As I said in the planning stages, this is more of a literal prompt. But yes, day 5, seasonal drink. After a long tour, Ruby had returned home. She relaxed with her favourite vanilla hot chocolate. It's one of my favourite seasonal drinks. I mainly have it in the wintertime, and it's just, it's so comforting. Day 6 is folklore. A Krell folklore speaks of a child born of land and sea. So we have Pearl and her parents. So this is Morwen and this is Phoebe. Now Phoebe is actually Skylar's aunt. She's the sister of Skylar's mother, Faye. I just love doing this monthly challenge because it's kind of like a series of threads being stitched together of world building, and even the books from previous years stitch into the wider narrative as well. So day 7 is elegant. There is some sparkle to this. It's kind of like a silvery sort of gold for this one. I also had some gold up here as well. This wasn't actually supposed to say anything specific. It's kind of a big spoiler, but I really wanted to draw it. And there's nothing more elegant than Typhy getting married. Just flowers, floaty fabric, just the whole 9 yards. She was so beautiful and elegant walking down the aisle. He saw no one else. Oh, it's losing focus. Just like me every day during this lockdown. So day 8 is Fang. And I decided just to reveal this new character in day 8. I just really, really wanted to draw a vampire princess. And people love this so much that I just decided, you know what, I'm just gonna throw this up on Redbubble. So if you want this as a print, it's actually available on Redbubble as a print. There is some silver in this one. And with the materials that I use, this is when I started using Copic markers. I completely folded and was just like, you know what? I'm using Copics as well because I can't wait several hours for the ink to dry. Because the main ink I was using was the Roller and Kalinga ink from the Hey Carla boxes that I had got. And I'd also brought all the other colours as well because I just love this ink. It's so beautiful and it's also light fast apparently. But this is Princess Myra Whittaker of Huxley. I just want it to be nicely lit, but it just isn't working, I'm sorry. Whoever heard of a princess with fangs? So here we have another Copic piece. This is Visceral. A lot of people on this theme I noticed were going pretty gory. For me personally, I wanted more of an emotional touch to this one. This is Sagini, Sparrow's mother, and Hawk's ex at this point in the story. In this point of the story, it's still very fresh. Visceral. The door shut and she fell to her knees, her visceral grief pouring out so loud he could hear outside the room. She had fled Avis, but at the cost of leaving her son behind. Yeah, the Copics over the line work actually just make it really, really shiny, so that's why I'm holding it up a bit. So day 10 is Creation. It's Nicholas and Vanessa with little baby Isla. I just thought it was adorable. Nick, our baby girl, our beautiful creation. Vanessa smiled. Our Isla, he replied joyfully. Day 11 is Grimace. Hawk is actually a very mean type of character. I have to hold it up like this because the ink became incredibly shiny, especially when layered so many times. So it's supposed to look like this. But day 11, Grimace. A Mariposan daughter-in-law, he grimaced at the thought. We also have some gold in this one. This also has like a very similar colour scheme to, I believe it was Coat, where I showed off the Avis coat of arms, and it was more of him smiling rather than this grimace. I really like the link between colour schemes with this one, and I love the extra effect I added with the yellow. I didn't necessarily have that in the beginning, but I just thought it might add a little bit of extra visual contrast. So day 12, Stormy. It's supposed to look like this. Again, the ink got pretty shiny. If I could change one thing about it, I would actually have the rain moving more diagonally this way. So that way it would be more dynamic and it would kind of match the windswept nature I've got going on over here. But the rain was an afterthought and it was just an automatic, I'll put rain on this. Unfortunately, I didn't think about the direction of the rain when I was doing it. It was a stormy night, cold, wet and fierce, and a rider was in trouble. I had to help him. So this is River. The rider she's talking about is actually Jonathan. So this is actually the night that they meet. So this is related to a previous piece that I've done, Dark. So day 1 of 2019 actually kind of links to this as well, because this one is kind of like a prelude to this. So this one is from Jonathan's perspective. I've done a couple of pieces relating to this scene that I did back in 2019, and this is just one of those. So it's kind of like a different perspective. Then we have Ghost. As I said before, this was probably one of my weakest, and I think the main reason why it's one of the weakest is because it's the only piece in this whole thing where I actually decided, you know what, I'm going to use my dip pen and just one of the colours straight out the bottle. And I wish I would have gone with black line art for this, so it would have been a bit more impactful. I don't hate this, but at the same time, I feel like in terms of every other piece in this, it's kind of one of the weakest. I don't know what you guys think, but it's just my personal opinion. And as an artist, I am my own worst critic, so I can understand if some people like this. So don't feel bad if you like this one, just because I personally feel like it's my weakest. I know you're here, Ghost. Come out. I don't bite, Gabriel called. She was shocked. How did he know she was there? So this is day 14. This is Prophecy. This one's a really, really cute one. I really like this. You can tell that I've been playing The Sims because, oh my god, the toddlers in The Sims are illegally cute. And I just have The Sims on the brain constantly. So I reference quite a bit of the toddlers from The Sims with this one. Her name was unknowingly an unfulfilled prophecy of what was to come. The world lies in a time lock. So fun fact, Loka actually means world in Sanskrit or Sanskrit. I don't know how to pronounce that personally. And Aikaluko, I believe, is a Finnish word that means time lock. And Loki's name is supposed to be a combination of Loka and Leiluna. So her mother's kingdom and her father's kingdom. She was the representation of the merger of the two. Day 15 is comfort. Jacob turned out to be a great comfort. She felt safe being in his company. So Sajini and Jacob. I forgot to add gold detailing on this one. Oh well, it's okay. I didn't have to. I think I was mainly focusing on a certain colour scheme for this. I know people quite like the orange and purple colour scheme in this. Actually no, I think I used 3 colours because I used the secondary set or the B set of Heikala inks. So day 16 is resting. We have my character Callan, my pirate king. The ship was resting in the bay as the captain watched the sunset. On this day, there was like a really beautiful sunset over the Midlands, and oh my god, it was gorgeous. It kind of reminded me of like one of my gouache sunsets. It was just so gorgeous that I had to do something with the sunset. If I had to do anything differently, I would say the perspective of this ship is a little bit off, but I never said I was the best at perspective. It's just something to try and improve upon in the future. Day 17 and 18. So this is the theme that I joined together. I think I got really excited about the gold and I accidentally went over the gold after I'd put it down because I wanted a bit more contrast, but this had the effect of smearing the gold all down here. But day 17 and 18, book and timid. Nicholas would hide her letters in his books. He was constantly timid of the possibility of his mother finding them. But this is in reference to my comic Interconnected. If you're wondering about my comic, I'll leave a link to it down below in the description. It's on Webtoon. Like with my Sims accounts, my comic isn't really my top priority, especially at this moment in time, so I only really update it when I can. Also, they take a really long time because I do each of the chapters in watercolour. But day 19 is candlelit, and we have Taifi and Hisoki. This one actually has a direct parallel that I did last year. It was one of my favourites from last year to redo, and I feel like this year I did it even better. I feel like there's more depth and dimension in this one, and also the anatomy looks a bit better, or like the style looks more finalised, if that makes sense. But yeah, I used the same colours. I think I did use a little bit more purple in this one just to give it more of a warmth in there. But other than that, oh my god, I really like it. I like the contrast of this one a little bit more with the sky though, but other than that, this one is my favourite. So day 20 is Nightmare, and this is Sparrow, Hawk and Sajini's boy. The poor child! He awoke with a start. Panicked, Sparrow jolted upright. It was just a nightmare. It's not real, he repeated to himself. But he didn't believe it, no matter how many times he tried to convince himself otherwise. So day 21 is Town. So this composition was come up with pretty much on the fly. So the difference with this one in materials is actually the first time in about a year I've actually broke out these, my Zig Clean Colour Real Brush Pens. I feel like the colour is definitely just a little bit too bright for this. They are really pretty, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this one suffers with the colours just being a bit too punchy in certain areas. But day 21, Town. And that was the town. Loki threaded her arm through his. It's bigger on the inside than I thought it would be, Elijah chuckled. While I was doing this, I was actually rewatching some Doctor Who episodes on BBC iPlayer, and of course I had to have a reference to that. It's bigger on the inside. Day 22, Noble. No, the composition isn't what makes this. It's actually the direction of the colours and the light in this one that makes it what it is. I feel like I definitely used it to my advantage in this one. My former enemy is now a noble, and my brother-in-law. So Jacob and Callan. So day 23 is Struggle. We have Queen Canara of Verona. She's also Princess Canara of Avis, Hawk's sister. It was a struggle hiding her wings from her new kingdom, at least at first. Day 24 is Parchment. We have Nicholas again, younger Nicholas. This links to day 17 and 18. Nicholas held the parchment close. With every letter, he became more infatuated. At this point, her looks did not matter to him. Her written love was all he needed. It's going out of focus. Oops. So yeah, we have a bit of silver in this one. So day 25 is chains. Heavy chains of an anchor fell from the surface, docking the ship in Verona's port. So you can see a reference to Verona in some of the crystals underneath the water. And here is little Pearl. Oh. So Pearl is kind of like a through line to some of the previous pieces over the years. So this is Pearl in a 2018 piece. There's also a reference to the pirates. So you can kind of draw the connections between like the three separate Inktobers. Currently, I have 2018 on sale in my Etsy shop because I recently just opened an Etsy shop. If you would like to purchase the book, then I'll leave a link to my shop down below in the description. I'm currently in the process of trying to get these up as books. There is only going to be 30 pieces in this book because of the combined 17 and 18 prompts, because I had so many problems mentally last year that I just did not end up having the time. But if you would like me to try and get some of these books into my shop and ready before Christmas, or at least I hope ready before Christmas, please let me know down below in the comments, because I'd love to know how many of you guys would actually like to buy any of these books. I also have a couple of original pieces from like previous videos in my Etsy store as well. I've only just started my Etsy store, so I'm trying to get used to everything, both with the shipping and the packaging and just everything. Just know if you order from my Etsy store, I actually hand package it, so it has that little extra personal touch that my Redbubble store just doesn't have. Okay, day 26, we have Beast. So this is Elias. This is another view of day 1 from this year. A beast was lurking in the darkness, waiting for the right moment to pounce on its prey. Day 27, Song. This actually references a Sims machinima that I made over on my Sims YouTube channel, and I'll leave a link to it in the iCard if there's enough links left. If not, it'll be down below in the description. The last song of the evening was written by your queen, Kanara, for her king. So day 28, Contract. This one references day 5 build of 2019. So I'll show you the connection between these. If you actually want to see previous year's sketchbook tours, I'll leave links to them either in the description or up in the iCard. I only have 5 iCards to play with. Just to note that this was actually done with the Winsor & Newton drawing inks, so that's why the colours kind of look different. So day 28, Contract. Emlyn had regrets. Typhi's marriage contract was just the tip of the iceberg. It would fit together like this, but it has a very narrative kind of look to it, and I really like it. It's also really interesting because day 5 actually, you view Emlyn as like really malicious for setting Typhi up in the way that she does, but in this piece you can actually see it from Emlyn's perspective. So it actually gives you a different viewpoint of that character and actually builds upon what is happening in the story. So day 29, this one also links to my comic Interconnected. It links to the first couple of chapters of the episode where Nicholas actually receives Thomas's pocket watch. But day 29 is Clock. Your dad Thomas would always wear a clock on his tunic belt. He left it to me to give it to you, Nicholas. This reminds me of the fact that some of my markers were drying up in this sort of area, but Thomas looks incredibly handsome. So day 30, Masquerade. You knew Lucille and Brandon were coming up somewhere in this video. You knew. Lucille and Brandon are literally on the cover of the planning sketchbook. They were going to be in here. 2020 has been the year of just Brandon and Lucille. I ship them so much. But I think they're really, really sweet. Day 30, Masquerade. How about I show you how much I've improved with my dancing? As you said, this is a masquerade ball after all, Brandon smirked. You're on, Lucille smiled back at him. But oh my god, this is probably one of my favourites. Even when the ink did this accidental drip thing, I love it still. But yeah, the gold on his mask and the silver on hers, oh my god, they just go together so well and I love them. So day 31 is Fall Festival. As I said in the planning stage, I didn't really want to do a particular character for this one because the theme itself was very literal, kind of like with Seasonal Drink. Not that I have anything against literal themes, I prefer more narrative-based themes personally, but I just decided to make this one a little bit more final, a little bit more like a closing credits picture, if that makes sense. So this kingdom that I drew was Henlin, so Typhi's kingdom. 31, Fall Festival. As Henlin's Fall Festival drew to a close, the moonlight cut through the crisp autumn air. But yes, I finished an October art challenge. But I had so much fun doing Tatty and Candy's prompt list that I actually got really inspired to make my own prompt list. I am gonna make one for next year, but I have already made one for March 2021, and the reason why it's March is because I'm a little bit burnt out. I know probably a lot of other people are burnt out from art challenges of October, whether you have done OC-tober, Witch-tober, Inktober even. I can definitely relate to feeling at least a little bit burnt out, so I have decided to hold it in March. So February 2021, I will be releasing a prompt list for March, and I thought, March? My birthday month? The first time I have ever done a prompt list. So again, it will be 31 days. I will release more about this prompt list closer to the time that it comes out, but I just wanted to let you guys know that Tatty and Candy's prompts had me inspired. But yeah, I'd love to know which of these pieces was your favourite out of all of them. I'd really like to know. And I know this sketchbook tour was a little bit different because I showed you the planning stages at the same time, and since it's showing you the exact same thing, it doesn't really need two sketchbook tours. So I hope you guys didn't mind me showing off the plans first and then the final CATTOBER pieces. But I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know which one is your favorite, because I can't really decide which one's my favorite. It's one of those where I can only pick out the ones that I feel are the weaker ones, if that makes sense, because I feel like I've improved so much, and I feel like that's what the October art challenge, especially for me, helps me to achieve. And I definitely think art challenges like this definitely help me to look back on the month and feel satisfied that I actually managed to complete something. And especially during this time of lockdown, it just gives me a real sense of accomplishment. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, my lovelies!